I hope that you guys had a great weekend, and are you ready for spring break? Yeah. Seems like you're kind of ready for spring break. Are you guys really ready for spring break? Okay, good. I'm going to get us opened up with prayer, and then Sarah's going to come and lead us for the WAG, and then we'll get started with chapel this morning. Please pray with me. Father God, I thank you for all that you do in our lives. And I thank you for the semester so far, all that you have been doing. God, we pray that you continue to work in our life, that you would continue to challenge us and inspire us to excellence. God, we pray for this week, we finish strong, heading up into spring break, that you keep us safe over spring break, bring us back. And we just thank you for all that you are doing in our life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Sorry.
All right. If you need to check the WAG later, it will be on the website per usual. We have a few meetings this week. Senior girls during bear time today in Schultz. NJHS tomorrow during advisory in Schultz. JSA Thursday in advisory in room 207. Student Council advisory Thursday in the boardroom. FCA advisory Thursday in the library. Lady Bear softball has a varsity game versus TSC at 4 p.m. on Tuesday and versus Hill Country at 4:30 on Thursday. Baseball has one game this week on Thursday at 6 p.m. versus TSD, and it is senior night. Track versus, I don't know, Cougar Relays at noon on Thursday. Future dual credit students, if you're taking dual credit classes next year for the first time, there's a meeting on Wednesday, March 10th during bear time in the library with Mrs. Nash. Purchase the pass for SMA casuals tomorrow. I would recommend buying that today if you would like to. You can find the link on the website. Get the bite out from Sodexo. Menus for lunch will be on there. And after spring break, menus will be available only on the app. The deadline for students to sign up for TAPS math competition teams is March 26th. It is first come, first serve. There's 4 teams: math, advanced math, calculator, and number sense. We have a few college acceptances: Lucas and the University of Illinois, Bonnie, University of Connecticut, Logan, University of Florida, and Ecclesio, Penn State, and Victoria, Southwestern University. We have a college visit to Howard Payne University Wednesday, March 24th. Sign up in Mrs. Nash's office by this Friday, and you must be passing all classes to attend. There's still senior scholarships available from College Board, Hayes County Aggie Moms, SMA Bear Network, and the St. Marcus Lions. The applications are in Mrs. Nash's office. Virtual college fairs are for all students: March 7th, March 16th, March 21st, April 10th, April 20th, and May 2nd. Senior lunch, Thursday, March 11th. Don't forget about SMA casuals. Seniors, don't forget, you do need to send in 2 images for the 2021 senior montage. 1 image of you as a baby or toddler, and 1 from your elementary school years. Send those images to Mrs. Henry. Rehearsal schedule for your Good Man Charlie Brown, 7 to 9 p.m. in the RCC, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Thank you, Sarah. We do have some birthdays this week and through spring break. And so yesterday it's Charlie Paul and Ryan Paul. Also yesterday was Dawson Martin. Wednesday will be May Happyward. Friday is Megan Chevron. Sunday is Chloe Crawford. And then March 16th will be Mr. Eduardo Salinas. And March 20th is Hannah Bennett. Happy birthday. share a message on his heart. And so, if you guys will, welcome Coach Wade.
Sorry, y'all, no matter how many times I do this, I still get a little nervous. My heart starts pounding a little. But I wanted to talk to y'all about something that I've been, I guess, kind of struggling with for a while. And it's kind of a long story, but you know, my stories always are, so that's okay. But as I've been thinking about this, one of the things that hit me was that when I was in middle school, there was I don't remember which teacher it was, but it's one of the few things that I remember clearly a teacher telling me in middle school. And I'm 57 years old, so that middle school was many, many years ago, but I still remember it as clear as can be. And I remember him telling us that when you look back at yourself any point in time you look back at yourself from a year ago, you're gonna look back at yourself a year ago and go, God, I was really stupid. And I hate that sound, but that's how he worded it. But the point being that you're gonna grow, and as you grow, you're gonna look at things that you thought were cool a year ago, or you thought were smart a year ago, or okay a year ago, and you're gonna go, I was dumb. I've grown a lot since then. For me, I notice that the most when I'm on social media, particularly Facebook, because y'all know that when you're on Facebook, memories come up, and I've been on Facebook for about 12 or 13 years, and I'll get memories that'll pop up from 12, 13 years ago, and I was really dumb for posting that. And it was kind of, for me, just a transition from thinking that people really care about how I feel, and me posting that for the whole world to be on Facebook, to me posting pictures of my grandkids, because I don't care whether y'all like it or not. I love it, and I love seeing them grow. I remember, I constantly remind myself of that. It's been probably about a month ago, I just kind of regressed, and I know why I did, I guess. COVID has been a challenge for all of us, right? No doubt. And for me, it's made this the most hectic year that I've ever had in my life. I've had to send more emails, I've had to talk to people more. I don't mind talking to people, but it's like overrun with communications. I have to communicate, send information on, what fans can go and can't go to away games, how to purchase tickets. We have to send affirmation letters to opponents saying that, confirming that all of our kids have tested and we don't have COVID symptoms before we leave for a game. Have to send it to officials. And on top of that, you've got the classroom, you've got I just felt overwhelmed. So overwhelmed I was about to snap. And everything was making me mad. And so, about a month ago on Facebook, I posted something to the effect of, I feel like I'm about to get the straw that's going to break my back. And I thought about it for a little while. I thought, and I went ahead and sent it. And then I felt stupid about 15 minutes later because one of my dearest friends, the guy that used to coach here, that coaches in Houston now, that's just been one of my best friends for as long as I've known him, Jason Campbell, for those of y'all who have been around enough to remember Coach Campbell. Jason calls me on the phone about 15 minutes after I posted it. I was out at MJ's football practice, and he calls me. He says, "Are you all right?" And I said, as soon as he called me, I felt stupid because this guy he loves me. I mean, we love each other. We're very, very tight friends, and Jason was freaking out. And the first thing he asked me is, "Do you have COVID?" And that made me feel even a little bit smaller. And then he told me he had COVID, and I felt about as small as I could feel because then he starts asking me what's wrong, and I'm kind of talking to him, and I'm talking it out. And as I talk it out, I'm like, God, this is dumb, It was a bunch of little things. It really was, and it was legitimate things, and they were piling up. But when I started talking about it, I'm like, it's stupid. Why am I being so dramatic on Facebook? And so me and Jason talked, and of course you can't take it back once you put it out there, so I left it alone. I hope not too many people noticed it, and I didn't get a chance to feel any more stupid, but the point being that kind of at that point, I started realizing that I needed to do better at dealing with stuff. Sorry, hold on a second. But it just hit me that I needed to do something different to deal with stuff, because nothing that I was dealing with was horrible. It was just a combination. It was nothing that I couldn't handle by itself, but piled up, it was getting to me. And so I'm trying to figure out what I do wrong, where am I messing up? And I wasn't still really clicking on what was going on. And I don't know if anybody see I did last year, it was around this time, unfortunately, because it was after school stopped because of COVID, I did a chapel in the dugout. I just filmed myself and did a chapel from there for the Fall of Wells. And I don't think many people saw it, because the last thing that y'all probably cared about was chapel. We were all kind of either glad we weren't in school, or we were sad that we were missing baseball and track and softball. And either way, I'm guessing that not many of y'all watched it. But when I did that chapel, I'm going to read a couple of verses to you, because I kind of figured out what my problem was. Sorry. So in Matthew 14, and this is a story that y'all have heard probably several times, but this is after everybody knows the story about Jesus feeding 5,000 people with the 5 loaves and 2 fish. Great miracle, great story. And then after that, Jesus sends his disciples out to cross the lake, and he prays and fasts, and then he walks on water to get to him. And so I'm going to pick up from there. So it says, meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came towards them, walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost." But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage, I am here." Then Peter called out to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" So, one of the things that I learn as I do chapels is that sometimes I'm pretty good at telling y'all what we should do, but I'm not always good at following my own advice. And usually when I realize that, I tell y'all some story about how Jesus spoke to me real clearly, and I'll get back to the translation of that in a minute. But I was still, that was on my mind, but I was still struggling a little bit. And during the week that we had off because of the snowstorm, I had something really funny happen to me. I think I've said many times in chapels that God has a sense of humor. No doubt in my mind that God has a great sense of humor. When the snowstorm hit, all that mess hit, so we had, a few days where we were all kind of stuck in our houses, right? And then there was a couple of days where we were able to go out and drive. Well, my kids, their house, the pipes had broken in one of their back rooms, and it did a lot of water damage. So I think it was a Thursday. Thursday was the first day we were able to drive out. Well, both of my kids were working, so I went to their house to meet with the extractor and let them do their stuff, and basically just got out of their way and locked up when they left. Got home, no problem. Well, Friday morning, which was supposed to be, Friday morning, they were both still working, so I had to go back to the house and open up for the extractor. And that Friday morning, if y'all remember, was the day that the snow started up again. And it was like a blizzard. And so I made it to the house fine, but I was just kind of sitting around playing on my phone, waiting for the guys to be done, and then I realized I didn't hear them anymore, so I walked back there, and they had left. And so I called them and I said, "Do y'all need me to do anything?" And he said, "No, I'm sorry I left. We wanted to get home because we were worried about the storm." So now I'm sitting here at my kid's house with no electricity, no water, all by myself, while my wife was dealing with 4 grandkids by herself, and I wanted to get home. And I started freaking out because it had snowed hard for about 3 hours. Y'all remember that if you were here in town at least. I don't know what it did out of town, but it had snowed here hard for at least 3 or 4 hours. I started panicking that I was going to be trapped at the house by myself. I mean, I would have been okay, but I didn't want to be there by myself, and I didn't want my wife to have to deal with 4 cooped up grandkids by themselves. So I decided to take a chance and drive home. And I got a little nervous about it, and so for the first time in a while, I asked God for help. I asked, "Lord, please, tell me it's safe to drive home." I didn't really feel like I got a clear answer, so I was a little nervous leaving. And my kids live out in Willow Creek, and if any of y'all have ever been out there, for one thing, there's not a lot of traffic in the snow because not everybody was as stupid as I was. They were staying home like they should have been. So the roads hadn't been busted up very much. I pull out, and I was going the long way around because my truck was already pointing that direction. So I start driving down towards, if anybody knows the neighborhood, the house that burnt down, that's been rebuilt out there, there's a little hill and a little curve right there. And I got to the bottom of the hill, I started sliding a little bit. And so I decided to turn around, and I kind of stopped, and I was, again, like, "Lord, am I going to make it home okay or not?" And instead of getting that comforting, clear answer that everything's going to be okay, what hit in my head was, "You stupid fat old man, you better go back to your daughter's house and get a couple of bottles of water if you think you're going to drive home today." Oh boy, that's comforting, thank you. So I did. I turned around, I went home. I mean, and basically in my mind, I was like, okay, I really don't know what to do now. But I stopped, I got the 2 bottles of water, I locked the house back up again, I hopped in the truck, and away I go. And I made it home fine. And so I felt like in my mind that God was telling me, "You're going to be okay," but he wasn't telling me loud enough for me to feel a little peace. He wanted me to squirm a little bit on the drive home, and I did. So mission accomplished, right? So anyway, I made it home okay, but then I started really thinking about, what do I need to do? And I started focusing back on my chapel back in March. And if you think about the story, Peter was fine as long as his eyes were on Jesus. As long as he was focusing on Jesus, he was fine. And where he started running into trouble was where he paid attention to all of the mess around him. It was a storm. These guys are fishermen, right? So it's not just a little bitty storm. This was a real storm going on out there. But Peter went out and walked on the water, and when he focused on Jesus, he was fine. But when he it doesn't say it in the verse, but my interpretation of it is that when he started looking at the storm around him, he went down just like that. And the cool thing is, it doesn't say that Jesus was right next to him. It doesn't say he doesn't say he walked and made it to Jesus and then sunk. It says that he fell when he started looking at the waves and the wind. And so I kind of have a cool visual of, Jesus can pull you out of trouble whenever he wants to. And he did. He pulled him out of trouble. But then he kind of chastised him for not having a lot of faith. And what I've finally realized is that, and I've kind of made it a goal of mine to start the morning literally talking to Jesus and saying, "I'm watching you. I'm focusing on you. I know you got this." And I feel like, clearly the storms in our life aren't going to go away. It doesn't say in that story that the waters were smooth when Peter got out there. He was walking in the storm. But he was okay because he wasn't looking at the storm. The storm's still there. Life's still going to go on. The hectic, the crazy, you're still going to get mad because we're not perfect either. It doesn't make everything go away, but it will help you to get through those storms. And so I'm going to ask, I see a lot of my first period people here, y'all hold me accountable because y'all have probably heard this before. It takes usually about 2 weeks for something that you try to become a habit to actually become a habit. I've proved that to myself over and over again. I'm going to ask y'all to hold me accountable and make sure that I've had my talk with Jesus, that I'm watching you, I'm looking at you. And y'all all do that with each other. Hold each other accountable. Make each other say, have you done that? Because I can promise you, like I said, y'all still see me get mad sometimes. But I can tell y'all, and this is dead serious, that there was a point that it was bugging me so bad. I got so upset before I finally figured out where I needed to fix it that I really thought I was going to have a heart attack in my office about 2 weeks ago, a week ago. I don't remember how long ago it was. But I was right at that edge because I was so frustrated. And I'm not going to let a job kill me. It's not going to happen. So focus on Jesus. Keep the eye on him. That's all I got. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Coach Wade. The thing I love about when he shares is that he's sharing with just an honest heart and sharing us about what's going on in his life. You know, in church, a lot of times we talk about sharing your testimony. And a lot of times we make that about like just the one time when we accepted Jesus. And so when we share with somebody our testimony, we tell them about how years ago God did this thing in our life. And honestly, like while that is the most important decision you ever make, when you're sharing your testimony with somebody, sometimes it's hard for them to really care about what happened in your life. For me, it was like a long time ago, 20-something years ago. You know, so for God to do something in your life that long ago and you to share that as like the one thing, and that's the only thing you share, but really our testimony is, yes, God changed my life, but God is working in my life. Like 80 to 90% of your story to tell people about who God is in your life should be what God is doing. And so for Coach Wade to be able to come up here and say, look, this is what God is doing, this is where I'm still struggling, and I want you to hold me accountable, like that's so awesome. And so thank you so much, Coach Wade, for being willing to share and to challenge us. And I hope you guys are challenged to constantly think about where you are in your life and where you are in your faith. And to constantly be going back to who God is and what God really wants to accomplish in your life. And then seek God together and challenge each other. At the end of this month, March 26, 27, 28, we're going to have a Youth United. We had this last year. Several churches in the area are gathered together. And if it's something you'd like to do, I'm going to be sending an email out this week with the opportunity for you to be able to sign up. It's a weekend-long deal where you get to stay the night, you get to be with other students and just seek after Jesus. We have a band coming from UMHB that will be leading us in worship, led by Caleb Gunther. And then we will have several speakers from the area and then some guest illusionists coming Saturday night. So if that's something you'd like to come and be a part of, I'll be sending out all the information and an opportunity for you to sign up. Hope you guys have a great day, seniors and faculty.